Hello and welcome back to another video with me, Meoni, for Final Fantasy XIV. This then just a bit of a discussion. A lot of people might be wondering, what was I up to at the weekend? Or maybe you weren't, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So thankfully, after I don't know how many months it's actually been a space of years, isn't it now? I actually finally managed to complete a run of Baldesion Arsenal. Now, Baldesion Arsenal is something that was kind of on my bucket list for my character in Final Fantasy XIV. If you're not sure what that is, basically it's a large-scale instance that you can access upon the completion of basically the Eureka series all the way through High Dartos, and then once you're at rank 60, or elemental level 60, I should say. I'm too preoccupied with the rank system from the current content in Shadowbringers. Yeah, so elemental level 60, you can actually gain access to this particular dungeon called Baldesion Arsenal. It has multiple bosses inside of it, and it's quite a challenge. And back in Stormblood, I had quite a bit of a difficult time, let's say, trying to get into runs. We've done countless videos before, many years ago now, and many months ago, talking about how Eureka itself was received by the player base and how the dungeon itself should have been something that I think a lot of people agreed should have been queued for externally from the actual instance itself of High Dartos. And we've seen a lot of success in Delibram Regine Savage, with the Shadowbringers content being queued for outside of the instance of Bosja, which is, I believe, a positive thing indeed, and has less of an impact on the actual instance. It also allows for groups to properly arrange runs rather than dealing with the RNG of certain elements, to do with fates and spawns and timers and things like that. So Baldesion Arsenal is basically the OG content for those of you who wanted to get a very unique mount, the Ozma mount, the Proto-Ozma mount, and for that reason it was very sought after. There was quite a bit of drama when it first came out, be it the portal sniping and such like that, but it's nice to see all these basically years later. Ultimately, we finally have a great set of people who will take you through this content on Chaos Data Center, and it's all stabilized very nicely. And due to the sheer skill level of some of the people in the Late Night Discord, which is the group that I went with, shout out to Late Night for their fantastic service basically to the community, we were able to get through Baldesion Arsenal with a lot of new players, including myself. I'd only ever seen the first boss previously to this date, and it was an absolute breeze. They made it look very easy, but of course that comes with lots and lots of hours of preparation and experimentation. So we all had specific logograms set up, and our Magia board was set to specific things, and we all had to have specific logos actions to keep ourselves alive. If we die, we have the Remembered Spirit, and there was assigned people for sacrifices if there was deaths on a boss, and it went absolutely swimmingly, and we managed to get, I believe, nearly everybody succeeded. I think there was one individual who unfortunately died on the last boss on Ozma itself by falling off near the end of the fight, which I believe means that they didn't get the achievement, sadly. But I believe that they will probably get prioritized for future runs if they so wish to actually continue. But overall, it was absolutely incredible. As you can see from the footage here, this is us doing Proto-Ozma. I didn't film the rest of the run. I didn't think that was really something I was confident enough to record, but I hit record about 70-something%, and I was like, I will get some footage of this. And obviously, for everyone else's benefit, I've blurred out all of the names and just got abbreviations above their head instead, so makes it less of a problem in terms of sharing this particular footage. But it was an experience unlike anything else, and it really did feel a lot easier than I expected. It was very simple to follow the callouts, but the mechanics themselves were very basic, and I believe back in Stormblood we were all just over-prepared for this, or over-complicating simple things. I did actually die once on the entire run. I died on the first boss to a line AoE. I'm not really sure what happened, but I had like a bit of a nervous sort of lock in my head, and I just stood in a line AoE. But since then, Everything else was easy. It's like Absolute Virtue, no problem, no death. Ozma, no death. You know, all of these other bosses, no problem, okay? But the first boss, I stood in a line AoE and died like a complete potato as the boss itself died. Maybe it was just greed on my part trying to get in a bit of extra DPS. I went as an Astrologian, but I was mostly just doing DPS as much as possible and putting shields up, which is usually the job of an Astro anyway, in this particular content. But yes, I really enjoyed it, and it was a very welcoming atmosphere. So I would say that if you're on Chaos Data Center and you're still looking to do a Baldesion Arsenal run, it's never too late, and it does seem like the late night Discord on Chaos does run multiple runs sometimes a week of Baldesion Arsenal. I thought it was something that was completely dead and in the waters, you know, especially since Delibird Regine is now the flavor of the year sort of thing. But I'm pleasantly surprised to see there's at least like 1, maybe 2 runs each week going up, which is why I'm going to heavily recommend, if you're on Chaos, to go and give these guys a go. It's a first come first serve basis for the majority of the time. You know, where you have to put a code into the party finder, and but it was a very relaxing experience and very rewarding. You know, Baldesion Arsenal really hasn't seen that many changes. In fact, I don't think it's seen any changes since the content was first introduced to the game. So, along with the call-outs obviously being more refined and, you know, beautifully orchestrated by the group, the actual mechanics themselves were largely the same, in my opinion. I don't see any evidence of it being nerfed or anything like that. So it was nice to experience it as it would have been experienced, only with a lot less chaos and a lot more coordination. And the callouts were fantastic. I cannot stress that enough. Very professional attitude towards the bosses, and overall it resulted in like 99% of the group, as I say, actually receiving the achievement if they still needed it. And that gives you the mount itself. It's something you have to stay alive for to actually get the achievement at the end. If you die, unfortunately, you do not get the achievement, so you'd have to do the whole thing again. But it's not really much of a big deal when a group like that is as vocal and clear as possible for those mechanics. Usually I would say that if I had made a mistake, it would have largely been my own problem for not listening. So that's definitely something you want to prioritize. Get yourself a decent pair of headphones and follow instructions. But it was flawless, absolutely flawless. So ultimately that receives, you receive the achievement, and that means you can go to Jonathas in Old Gridania, and you can pick up from the achievement vendor there in exchange on the battle menu for the the Demi Ozma mount, right? And this is something you've seen probably hundreds of times before, but yeah, I am incredibly overly ecstatic to finally have this in my possession. I had looked down upon this mount for so long, just basically because I couldn't get it, and I was very envious of other people who had it, and very respectful of the people who had it. I was like, damn, they have that. I'm out of luck. And then I look at my mounts and I'm like, yeah, there's not really anything I've got that compares to that. But yes, it is an absolutely fantastic mount. It has generic flying music and mounted music in general, as you would expect, which is unfortunate. It would have been nice to have, the theme from the actual instance, or one of the themes, but unfortunately that's not the case, sadly. It does have some really cool sound effects, though, as you can hear, as we're sort of buzzing around. And obviously in the terrestrial mode, you're a little sphere. And then, obviously, when you hit your spacebar in a flight-enabled area and take to the skies, you turn into a cube that you're perilously levitating above, and that point definitely doesn't look like it's going near your bottom in the slightest, right? But yeah, I'm over the moon to finally have this one, and yeah, I just wanted to share this news with you, share my experiences. It's not something to be afraid of, and honestly, going with a group as confident as that has really bolstered in my mind how simple some of these fights can be. Some of these fights you look and go, I will never be able to do that. That's way out of my league, and there's no chance of me ever finding a group for this, and I'm never going to be good enough. Honestly, at the end of the day, I found that one of the easiest pieces of content in its current form. I know it's a revisit with very skilled players, but it was very straightforward and highly enjoyable. The bosses themselves are incredibly well designed. It's still unfortunate, I believe, that you have to queue into Hydartos and then, you know, go and do a thing to be able to get a buff, to be able to get into a portal, to get into the instance itself. I think the Delibram Regine queuing system works a lot better in regards to more recent content, in my opinion, at the very least. You might disagree, but I think overall it's a better experience being able to queue directly into it, and it's less disruptive to an instance such as Eureka, which was obviously the original problem all those many months ago when it was first released, you know. It was the portals were the biggest issue, and portal sniping and the drama that ensued from that. And but it's nice to see that as the content itself, sadly, is becoming, well, less frequented, and it really does need a Phoenix down, as I've suggested in the previous video that I did. Eureka needs a Phoenix down. It really does rely on community groups, like the late night Discord for those sorts of activities, and the project that I ran last year where we got everybody from, you know, not having a single Eureka weapon to completing Hydartos and getting a shiny weapon and some armor. It relies so heavily on community organization and structure, which isn't necessarily a negative thing, but it would be nice if more of it was soloable, much like the older relics in the video game. Back in, you know, obviously Heavensward is soloable, and so is Realm Reborn's relic, but more recently they've drifted away from that entirely, for whatever reason, to rely upon that group content, even past when the content itself has, you know, died a little bit more than... I mean, it's not completely dead, don't get me wrong, but it's a lot deader than it was when it first came out, which is going to be any content like that. But yeah, overall I'm very happy with this, and that's how I spent my weekend. So I thought I'd share this, and I would recommend, if you're on Chaos, go and get this done. It's simpler than you think. Get rid of your nerves like I did. I just finally went sod it and went and did it, and everyone was incredibly helpful and kind. And if you have any questions, they are more than happy to help you. They've got lovely guides on their Discord as well. I can't recommend them enough. But much love. Let me know if you've got yourself an ozma, if you're going to pluck up the courage and go and do it today, because if I can do it with my low skill level, I'm sure you too can as well. Much love, and I'll see you all next time.